Hey everyone, and welcome to Tabletop Educators Edition. Today I am going to be talking about how personal conferences in the virtual classroom has dramatically improved student engagement in my class. We're going to get into that in just a minute, but right now please hit that subscribe button down below. This year, my journey as a virtual teacher has been absolutely crazy. Learning how to navigate a virtual classroom, how to engage with your students, and how to stay on top of all of the work that is being asked of teachers right now is almost impossible. However, I do feel that it has benefited in certain areas that I would not have expected. So that main first thing that I want to talk about is the personal conference. So in a physical classroom, I often would walk around the room and sit down next to a student and talk with them about their work, but I very rarely was able to get a student to come into my classroom by themselves independently. And even for those that were able to come in, it was always for a very short amount of time and it wasn't necessarily regular. However, with a virtual classroom, I have found that it is relatively simple to set aside times throughout the week where students can come into the class, and I will keep them in a lobby in the virtual system and pull them in one by one to have quick 10 to 15, maybe even 20-minute conversations with students. And these are not just plain old conversations. These are conversations where I'm able to connect with them on a personal level, ask them about how they're doing. So I'm building student relationships and making sure that students aren't overstressed with the amount of work that they're having to complete. But I'm also able to pull up their work and share the screen. So we're able to go through their assignments together. This kind of automatic feedback for students is extremely important in the virtual setting because some students may not be understanding what they're doing and they might be scared to turn work in when it's not all the way complete or perfect. So when you're able to have students pull up what they're working on and actually walk them through it, they are able to ask questions without fear of peers. They are less self-conscious and often turn their videos on so that I am able to connect with them personally, and they are able to turn their work in with more confidence. The first time that I implemented independent conferences in my class is after I assigned an essay. I didn't usually do a lot of essays in the physical classroom because I would rather have students up and moving and working in collaborative groups because that's the kind of teaching that I really focused more on. However, in the virtual setting, that has been a little bit of a struggle because kids don't have the same schedules and it's really hard to pair students together in the virtual setting unless you're only pairing for the time that you're in class. Now, I'll talk about paired activities for while you're in class in another video, but for longer assignments that were once projects, I have started assigning essays. Now, there's still a lot of choice in the essays. Students are allowed to choose the text that they're writing about. They're allowed to choose the prompts that they want to use to write their essays. But the essay is really the best way for me to make sure that they are understanding the content. And there's easy plagiarism checkers out there to make sure that students are doing their own work. Now, when I was able to meet with them independently in conferences, I was able to see the level of skill that their writing held and able to help them connect the dots on real analysis in the English classroom. After I saw the major improvements that my students made in their writing and how much that they enjoyed being able to talk with me one-on-one on these assignments, I decided to do it again, just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. So I assigned another essay that I wasn't actually planning on assigning, but I wanted to see how they did. And this one turned out even better. Students came to the table with more ideas, more written content, and less questions, but they all came back for the conference just to go over it again, just to say, hey, how are you doing? And to share what they've been working on. And I also noticed that their stress levels reduced dramatically by asking students to write an essay instead of doing 10,000 other assignments for the week. As a teacher, especially now in the virtual setting, I want to make sure that my students can utilize the assignments to demonstrate mastery of the skill level without making them work and jump through hoops for hours. I want them to be able to take a text and really demonstrate understanding of a skill without having to do 10 assignments in a week. Number really does matter. The more assignments that you give students, even if they're simple, the more their stress levels go up. So by telling my students that they have one assignment, they tend to relax and they tend to go, oh, it's just one. And then I'll go back and say, okay, it's one, but it's a big assignment and it's gonna take time. However, I've noticed that the more I give students one larger, maybe more rigorous assignment per week, the more I get back from them. They're more thoughtful in their answers, they're more focused, and they manage more time to work on these assignments because they do realize that they are larger assignments, maybe more rigorous assignments, but they're not overstressed by quantity. The other type of sessions that you can definitely have to improve student engagement and relationships in the classroom is going to be the small group sessions. So with small group sessions, you start as a whole class and then you turn into breakout groups. And whether you're using Zoom or WebEx or Google, you can do breakout groups. There's multiple ways to do that. So when you do the breakout groups, you want to make sure that your students know what they need to be talking about. So for me, I might have students use that time for peer editing so they can share their essays or their projects with a small group and get ideas or feedback about what they should do or where they can go from where they're at and maybe they're stuck. Allowing students to have that one-on-one time with each other is just as important as it is for teachers to have one-on-one time with students. Students need to remember that they are with peers. They're not alone at home in this virtual world. They are able to connect digitally with their friends and their classmates to get help and support in the virtual classroom. If you were a virtual teacher who was not really sure about having individual conferences with your students, mainly due to the fact that it takes a lot of time and they're sometimes hard to plan out, trust me, it is absolutely worth it. I recommend having individual conferences once every 2 weeks, if not once a week, if you can handle it. Please like, share, subscribe to our channel. Let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns about things that I have mentioned about virtual teaching, and check us out with our next video coming up soon.